Guys, I'm really excited to have Alyson Stoner here with me today. I met Alyson for the first time at an event in Los Angeles a little while ago and just was really taken by her energy on stage and her ideas around movement and fun and spontaneity. And we were having a casual conversation a couple of days ago about what was going on. And immediately I said, you know what I want to do is I want to bring Alyson to you guys so we can talk a little bit about, as you know, I'm all about what we need to do is get through this. We need to cope with what's going on. We need to survive it. We also need to thrive. And one of my objectives with all of this is that we and our children around the world come out of this with more positive memories than negative. That we are able to look back on this and go, you remember that time when we had to camp out and we had all this fun? And so that's really why I wanted to bring Alyson here with you guys today. Alyson, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's quite a condition and climate to be doing a live stream, but I think I've done more live streams in the last week than I have in the last 6 years total.
You know, what's really funny is I have been threatening to do something like this for a long time, podcasts and that kind of stuff, but I travel all the time and all my friends that I would want, they travel all the time. Suddenly people are very available.
Oh yes. Not only available, but pining for connection in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. So listen, I'm impressed by you, and I say that not lightly because frankly, when my team went and did a little research, they sent me your date of birth. I'm like, they let her drive cars? I'm I'm kidding, but I'm saying that because frankly, while you look very youthful, your energy on stage and when we met certainly speaks of an old soul and a level of wisdom that doesn't easily reveal your youth. And I really liked in one of your YouTube videos, I saw you talking about relationships and wanting to be in relationship with people who don't simply act their age, that they can act the full spectrum of age. And I wonder,
Sure.
I think that really factors into this situation. I'd love to hear your
Agreed.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I guess it might be helpful for your audience. Apologies for the mic here. It's all makeshift. So a little background context. I started in entertainment close to 20 years ago at this point, and I've lived a lot of different lives for being 26 years old. Worked on 200 different films and shows, and have played characters which require me to delve into human identity, to understand, like you said, the spectrum of emotion, of life experience, circumstance, privilege versus being marginalized or discriminated against. I've played addicts. I've played type A personalities, which you could argue is actually another form of addiction to achievement and high performance. And so for me, I made a relationship video on my YouTube channel with my series Alchemy. And the premise of the series is to give bite-sized frameworks for people to just consider and contemplate things through a creative lens. Sometimes I think if we go straight to therapy, it can feel so vulnerable, so intimate, and we're not always ready to be that open with our own self-disclosure. And so when I spoke about being, the full spectrum of a soul, that space of almost timelessness, I was referring to the fact that in some relationships, we are so bent on being mature and serious and tackling an issue that we focus on, trying to present ourselves with confidence and know-how. And at the same time, we all understand and tend to agree that childlike youthfulness, that sense of wonderment, is actually a space where playfulness, creativity, curiosity can give us new ideas for solutions to tackle our problems. I mean, you can ask a kid to get from A to B in a new way every single time and they'll find something.
Yeah.
But see, the more we get into our routines of this is how we do this is how we do that, we get a little more rigid. And so the idea of just being a timeless soul as we approach even now with coronavirus and being at home, I want to operate from a space of infinite expansion instead of a space where my body wants to contract and just stay in survival mode. That's going to keep our lens linear. It's going to keep, our periphery we're going to have a narrow-minded approach. And right now, more than ever, we need to create a sense of expansion, even if we're confined within, the physical limitations of a room.
Yeah, that's really, I'm with you. And it's funny because I think that right now it's very easy for somebody to focus on all the things they cannot do.
Hmm.
But what we really need to be focusing on is what are all the things that we can do.
Oh yeah.
Another thing that I've seen you speaking about is wanting to be a lifelong learner. That's a huge value of mine. It's a,
Oh
you know,
yes.
I honestly, people always ask me, like, I enjoy speaking and training and that stuff around the world. And they ask me, when would I ever stop doing it? And I said, well, there's only two reasons I would stop doing it. One is if I got off, if I felt like it was perfect every single time, then I'd stop. And the other
Hmm.
one was if I was no longer learning, then I would stop. And so
Right.
this is a time, I think, when, you know, we should be focusing on what we can be. Alyson, I bought a guitar. I don't know what the hell to do with a guitar, but I
That's
have one
great.
here, and I can play the first 8 notes of "Wish You Were Here."
Wow, that's amazing. Also, just to stimulate that side of your brain, there's a book called The Jazz of Physics. And it just ends up combining, music theory, understanding the circle of fifths, but then looking at it from a scientific standpoint and seeing cosmically what's going on in the natural order of things and where vibration, sound, and music come into play. It's just so fundamental to who we are. So definitely, people who have that penchant to learn and grow, music is such a helpful tool right now. Art therapy, I've been teaching dance for 10, 12, maybe 15 years. I started assisting at like 10 years old. And music really it's transformative.
It really, really is. I was speaking to a friend of mine who does. She's a professional singer, and she also does voice training and stuff like that. And she said, in her business right now, there's just this great opportunity that where there are people sitting at home, able to do
Yes.
lessons online like that. You know, so some people
Right.
might be going, "Well, I don't have a piano, I don't have a guitar." Well, music is still there. You know, there's opportunities to get to it.
Yeah, and when you speak of lifelong learning, this is a global pause, but in the pause, in the silence, we actually get to hear the symphony more clearly. So when we slow down, when we become still, then we actually get to be more mindful about how we move.
Yeah,
And it wasn't voluntary. And I think that can bring up a lot of resistance. We didn't choose, I should say, we didn't consciously choose to be in this position. However, you could argue that human behavior over the last, however many generations has contributed to the state that we are in. And so it's a time of reckoning. We are facing a mirror, and we might not have wanted to see our reflection this clearly, but we don't have to be afraid of it. And
yeah,
something I also made another video in the series Alchemy on fear, because I think we're feeling a lot of fear and anxiety and stress and overwhelm. But a, a trick to overcoming fear is actually, in order to face fear, you give fear a face. And by making fear a recognizable person, maybe it's a younger version of yourself or whoever you feel comfortable personifying as fear, we actually get to create some distance between us and not over identify with fear. Fear's truth doesn't have to be our truth. Fear's thoughts don't have to be our thoughts. And we end up getting to have a conversation and
yeah.
ask, hey, fear, when did you enter the picture? At what event did you start tagging along with me? And what secrets do you know about me that I've been too afraid to ask? And what information can we explore together right now at a safe distance so I can get some new insight and
Mm,
I can start approaching life in a new way. And it does involve facing fear, but at the same time it involves embracing joy. And like I said, with being childlike and playful, curiosity and creativity aren't just fun to feel. It's scientifically proven that in that space of pleasure, you're actually opening yourself up to just truly creation, um, all of the infinite possibilities. So it's crucial that we see this truly, like you said, as an opportunity, because while we may not have wanted to do that work right now, we actually get to make some really specific pivots in our lives, our lifestyle, our relationship to the planet, to society. It's endless.
This discussion about fear is really important to my mind because I did an earlier series in the first 3 episodes of this show were all about basically immune system support.
Mm.
And one of the things we have to do to support our immune systems is not produce a lot of stress and fear chemicals.
Right.
And I think that the news is so scary. And of course, what's more scary than the news is the reality that it seems to actually be affecting us because we all have to go into lockdown.
Mm.
But the truth is, most of us are not in any actual danger. Most of us are not. In fact,
Mm.
this is a little bit cynical, but I was doing some math research, and it turns out that around the world, about 3,000 people a day die in car accidents, and they're not dying in car accidents at all right now. And so far, we've lost about 15,000 people to coronavirus. What I'm saying is, we have net more people alive today than we would have. And I know
Right.
that's cynical, and it's I'll probably get a bunch of haters telling me that I'm being unthinking. And believe me, I understand the exponential math. I'm not diminishing anything. What
Mm.
I'm saying is that if the news covered, let's say, diabetes with
Right.
the same level that they cover coronavirus, you would still think that corona was a beer
Right.
because the numbers are so much bigger. What that means to me is that our social media channels and our fake media news, and by the way, I don't care whether it's CNN or Fox, those are just two different ends of the fake news as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And as long as we're in a place where that's our predominant source of information, we're going to be freaked out. And I think what I like about what you're saying so much is it's so important for us to be telling our bodies that we're okay right now, and
Oh,
be
yes.
safe. It's so good for the immune system.
Yeah, I mean, I've been delving into your story and your programs too, and I'm so appreciative of the information you're providing for people because, as a dancer, you might assume that I'm an expert when it comes to being in my body, but I actually, in my history, I was diagnosed with alexithymia. And alexithymia is the inability to feel and identify emotions and sensations in your body. And so even though I was on camera performing and maybe portraying a certain emotion, in my body I was in a state of hypervigilance for I would say the majority of my youth. And I have paid for it
Mm,
with immune deficiencies and with compromised just different systems and functions and development overall. And so in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I've recognized just how important it is to bring myself into a resilient zone. So I'm not, swinging from manic to depressive, and that pendulum isn't constantly going from extreme to the other extreme, like you said, CNN to Fox. They're just extremes when really we do need that sense of grounding. And so I started doing this 14 days of mindfulness on my, Instagram and YouTube daily right now, because it's not just about relaxation, giving us a break from the stress. Like you said, it actually is. It's our neurochemistry. It's at a chemical level that we're training our bodies right now to remain calm when we need to be able to think clearly and critically. We absolutely want to stay in this space of clarity
yeah.
and calmness. And then I'm also leading mindful movement for people on live streams, and they're saying it's giving them such a chance to release the stress of the day, but then also connect in their own skin. I think in many ways we haven't had to be alone with ourselves like this, and we haven't really chosen to. We might go to the gym and push through a hard workout, but unless we're doing yoga every day and moving through every single bite we eat and walking to the car with a very conscious presence and awareness, we might be disconnected. This might be us, getting a chance to re-meet ourselves for the
Yeah.
first time in a long time.
Alyson, you're so right. I'm in the unenviable situation where my wife and my 3-year-old girl and a family friend of ours that lives with us, they were all on a cruise ship. And they managed to get off the cruise ship into Miami, which I was so concerned they might not even be allowed into the US.
Mm.
But then the next question came, do they come here or do they go there? And suddenly the math hit me that if we were forced into some kind of evacuation or what have you, we all have different passports and we could have been broken up. And I made the decision that the best thing for them to do is to hold up with some friends of mine with nice property safe in the US. In other words, I'm here isolated alone. And you're
Wow.
absolutely right with what you're saying. I've come to understand that in as much as I'm heavily introverted, I almost never get alone time. I'm on stage, I'm on a plane, I'm on this, da, 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 da. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden I'm like, I'm by myself and I'm getting to know me. And that's a fascinating, I mean, it turns out I'm pretty interesting in there.
Right.
So
I know, I know. And I think it's easy for us to just keep that work up here, upstairs in our brains in the attic. But we're a full home.
yeah,
And I think right now we're getting to see actually we're all mansions. We've got a lot of different rooms
yeah,
and some we've never seen before. And I was writing some copy for upcoming posts. In all full transparency, as a creator right now, we are posting more than ever, and there's a greater need for it. And so I've had my head down, and I was talking about how not all shadows need light to exist, because I'm facing and encountering many shadows daily and nightly here in quarantine. There's no sunlight coming in, and I don't always have physical light, but I'm still meeting my shadows, and that's okay. I think also it begs the question, why are we reacting to life instead of being more proactive with how we approach things? I'm recognizing that in my career, even in my business growth, I've been meaning to create content, programs, services, and courses, which I'm now doing because I have the time, so to speak, for so that I can release them online and share them with a greater number of people. But it took this pandemic to prioritize that. And
yeah,
and in fact, those courses are actually probably going to be, further reaching than my standalone performances in front of people, a physical audience of 2 to 500 or 1,000 people. So, the next round, because this outbreak is not going to be the last thing, the last difficult crisis we encounter, how can I be more preemptive about how I'm going to approach it? And it starts at the basic level of, do I know myself, my mind, body, and soul? And then from there, what is my purpose? Ask the bigger questions and then start connecting those dots in practical ways. And there are so many books and so many leaders, so many speakers. You can find a helpful framework for anything you're going through right now. You really do have infinite options, more than ever, because you not only get to access our minds and listen to other people process, you get to access an abundance of material on every audiobook site, on every
Alyson, you are bringing up that, like, imagine if this happened 10 years ago.
right.
Like right now, we can buy any book we want, and
Hmm.
we've got Netflix and Hulu. And while I'm not saying
And
anybody
free
should give
content
their
too.
lives away to those things, there's tons of incredibly good, healthy content available to us. 10
Mhm.
years ago, it would have been a different thing entirely.
Yeah, and I think recognizing that more than ever, we've seen the ethical component in tech development. And so you have apps like Calm, Headspace, you've got Simple Habit, you have so many opportunities to utilize tech in your devices and your screen time in a way that actually brings you back into your body, into sanity. You can talk to therapists for free online. I mean, really, it's a matter of allowing your own doubts to kind of fall and crumble, and let some of those limiting beliefs be shattered, knowing that it doesn't have to be a horrible experience right now. In fact, yes, you're facing very real circumstances that are challenging, but during this process, you get to access joy, you get to access humor, you get to access um, creativity, you get to access good things too. It doesn't have to be hunkering down and just muscling through. In
Yeah,
fact, I would say that many of us have made a lifestyle out of pushing, and now we get to tune in and listen to how we can be pulled by the magnetism of the future we actually really desire and want for ourselves, our families, and the world. We actually get to be pulled by hope, by consciousness, by inspiration, and we get to lean on each other. and, provide both a shoulder, but then also let ourselves be held. I mean, if you want to look at it from an optimistic standpoint, the situation is dire on many fronts, but it's also incredible.
It really, it's a hard thing to say. Nobody wants to admit that they're enjoying or getting benefit from something that's causing other people any kind of suffering. It's
Right.
part of the human condition. But I was hosting a live episode with a bunch of people dialed in a couple, 3 days ago. And I asked a couple questions. One of the questions was, how many people are secretly actually having fun, like that on
Mm,
some level this is an adventure? And just about everybody raised their hands. And then I said, and how many of you feel a little guilty about that? And just about
mm,
everybody raised their hands. And I think that's one thing we have to let go of, is that we're all here having our own experience. And while there are clearly people suffering, and we are so fortunate to have first responders out there, like we've got Dr. Ara on call, is in Florida right now. We're interviewing him later today as well. Of course, there are some people that this is an incredibly difficult time, but for the rest of us that
mhm.
can't be helping and aren't being affected by it physically, what if we could turn this into a great opportunity for self-exploration and fun, and enjoy it and not feel guilty about that? I
Right.
love what you said about the pause button. I said this yesterday in an Instagram live. I said, we come to December 31st, and we set all these goals about what's going to happen with 2020. And then all of a sudden it's January 1st, and then it's January 6th, and then it's January 8th, and then it's February, it's March, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's June. I'll wait till next year to make it amazing. And what if you could
Mm,
press a pause button? What if the whole world agreed to hit a pause button? What would you do now to make sure that this year was going to be the best possible year ever? And
mm.
that's why I think I like what you're saying so much, because it's putting us right here in the present.
Yeah, and I'm, as I think a lot of us are, reassessing my highest values. And it really does crystallize what's important and maybe what you thought was important but isn't so much right now. And sure, you take care of the basics first. And I also think we can't forget the component of service in this. If you
Yeah,
do have excess, whether that's time or physical resources, um, I would absolutely look into the people who are in compromised situations, who are most vulnerable, and do get involved. I mean,
yeah,
what are you holding on to things for anyway? Why are we still operating from a space of scarcity, thinking, oh, if it's here now, it'll never be here again? If we can tune into, the wisdom of water and let things flow through us and not just to us, I think we can also examine sort of the brainwashing that we have here, at least in the West or in the States, with mass consumerism. This idea that we need to accumulate more just in case, just in case, just in case, instead of trusting that there will be ways to find resources, or to get your needs met, and to recognize maybe things you thought were needs were more wants, and the things that you may have been neglecting, like your emotional, mental, physical health, those are the real needs, and
yeah.
those can often be met with very little spending.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
There are a
and the
lot of people
more
out there with Ferraris that don't need them right now.
No. And the more tools you have for, self-care and self-awareness, the less you'll find you'll need to spend on different things outwardly,
Yeah,
even in, paying for support. Because you'll go, okay, I remember, I mean, I highly encourage people to be in some form of therapy. I've, had a therapist for over a decade, and because I work in entertainment, there are a lot of unique situations that I encounter
let's
on
be
a
clear. It's
daily
not like
basis.
you don't just work entertainment. You've done dancing work with with Outkast and Will Smith and Eminem. Like, you're not just you are entertainment. Like, so I think after that you would definitely need a little therapy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially with the rapid adultification, I've said that many times, and I don't know what that word is right now, and I'm okay with it. And yeah, I've been rapidly adultified, and so I had a lot of a lot of checking in to do
Yeah,
when I hit a certain period. And so I think I actually went through a dark night of the soul a few decades before many often do. And maybe that's why during this kind of global dark night of the soul, I'm able to see no, there really is a candle here, because the last time I thought there wouldn't be. And it turns out I just really had to let go of a lot of my expectations, a lot of my beliefs. And I had to trust that on the other side, man, something would be better than I expected. And it has been. It hasn't taken away challenges and obstacles in life.
You
But
wouldn't want it
has
to.
no, truly, I'm so grateful for the strength that I have cultivated over the last many years, because right now I'm recognizing that if I can do it, literally anyone can do it. And it's just about creating access and opportunity with this information so people can be empowered to empower themselves. Everything about my content, my mission, and this time together right now is to remind you that you can handle what is in front of you, and you can face what's within, and you can reconcile all the elements of who you are and see the mosaic, all the different pieces, and let them be cohesive and not lead to you feeling fragmented, like you're in just a bunch of pieces that are broken, but actually find a way for all of those to lead to wholeness, a sense of all of your dimensions, the multidimensionality of reality and everything, that the universe that's inside, feeling whole and well and thriving. And those are things that those are terms that get tossed around right now, I think, and can be, whitewashed, can be westernized in a way that's like, oh, just feel good and think happy thoughts and you'll be happy. um yeah, in a reductionistic way, you could argue that's true, but also we got to do some simple practical application, and
Let's
small
let's
things will lead to big fruit.
Yeah, let's talk about some simple practical applications. So, in earlier episodes of this show, I focus a lot on what around immune system support. I think I'm a big believer that the warnings that we're receiving and the advice we're getting from the government and from CDC are all important. The social distancing. I am shocked and horrified to see spring breakers dancing in Florida right now, and
I
just not
know.
understanding what's going on. But in the meantime, as much as all that advice is really important, there are going to be some people that ignore that advice, as we're
Mhm.
seeing. And so it seems to me that one of the most important things that we need to do is take care of what I call our last line of defense, which is our own immune system and our own health.
Mhm.
So we've talked on this, I had a previous guest on, Dr. Greg Wells, talked a lot about nutrition and really great stuff. What I want to talk about right now is movement. And what I mean by that is that we know medically that movement's incredibly important to
Right.
the physical reality, but we also know that it's really important to emotional reality. And
Mhm.
I saw you take a room of, I don't know, 800 some odd people, whatever was there in Los Angeles, not so many weeks ago, and introduce them to movement in a way that took even people like me, you were talking about that, like not being able to feel your own emotions. It's almost like emotionally tone deaf. Well, I am physically tone deaf.
Mm.
So suddenly you create this environment where moving became comfortable and safe. Here's what I would like to inspire you guys. I years ago used to watch Grey's Anatomy, and
Mm.
the girls would always have dance parties to get their stress out after all those long. I want to inspire everybody out there. I know you already are. I want everybody having dance parties at least once a day. Tell
Yeah.
me, like, really truly, you're at home with your kids, let's say, and you want to get everybody up and moving. Break it down. What's the best way to make that fun, and how do we get them moving so they're not worried about the form and they can do, as you always say, just be in their body?
Sure. So, a few things with mindful movement in particular. We're recognizing that we need to reconnect to our own bodies. And that means going as slowly and as comfortably as you need to move. I think when we associate dance with stress relief, there's still people who are actually more triggered by the idea that they need to be a professional dancer. And they're like, I don't have rhythm. I can't do that cool wavy body roll thing. And so the truth is, well, yes, you actually probably can. But in the process, if you focus more on connecting to one body part at a time, and actually um, sparking your creativity with a prompt such as pretending that you're holding a needle with a piece of thread. And if you thread it in one direction, you have to keep the thread going for, the whole duration of the song. But the only rule is you can't thread the same place twice. So you'll start to notice that as you're threading with your body, you're occupying different parts of the room. You're occupying space differently. We get so stuck in our postures, our mannerisms,
Oh,
our gestures, and really mindful movement allows you to start moving literally in different ways. If I say paint a sunset with your body, and I remind you that, hey, by the way, you might be thinking the canvas is in front of you. The ceiling counts too. So does the ground. So does behind you. Every single wall, the entire room, all of that space. You realize, whoa, we can actually explore and have more fun with this. And so I encourage you, if you're alone or with family, try the thread the needle idea, try the paint the sunset idea. Another thing that I have so much fun doing with people during my mindful movement live streams, and of course, everyone's welcome to join Instagram and YouTube daily at Alyson Stoner, Alyson Stoner. I'm assuming more people know how to spell stoner than the way I spell my name, Alyson. And yes, that was my birth identity. That's on the birth certificate.
we have two members
Um,
of staff whose last names are Toker. I'll introduce them to you later.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I grew up with a Kendall Weed and a Tory Cracker. And I was like, really? How did this happen? The universe was laughing. And so with one of the exercises, we pretend that every joint in our bodies has a different marker or a different crayon and color. And one by one, you pick a joint, again, to clarify, a joint in your body, and you begin creating shapes with that part. Every moment of movement has to start and be led by the different joint in your body. So if I say elbow, all of the movement originates and starts from the elbow. And now, if you want to get really creative with it, you can limit the shapes to only triangles or only circles or only squares. And you can be any age and do this. You will realize that your body can move in ways you had no idea it could. And every song or every, your favorite artist is going to inspire a different kind of feeling in music. Allow that to be, something that you connect with. And just more of the scientific standpoint, really quickly, a lot of our trauma, our stress, memories, sorry, not memories, but a lot of important things that are held within our body are stored in nonverbal places in the brain. And so we can analyze all we want and we can process, but really movement actually allows different things to arise and release that maybe we weren't accessing before. So be gentle with yourself in
Mm.
this time. If you're going to be doing workouts at home, recognize you might need to be a little kinder. And so that's why I like mindful movement, and just actually have fun. Dare to be
I have a
creative.
confession.
Did
I
you
have a
try it?
confession, and I've learned so much from you about this. And by the way, I turned 50, like, I don't know, a few days ago. I paused it all. I'm having my birthday later, but
Okay, got it. Happy early birthday.
there it is. There it is. But so I'm one of those people who like, I'm happy to go out dancing, in a club with people and music pounding, and I can kind of get in the mood of it, and I kind of enjoy it. But the idea of dancing in any kind of structured way, or any kind of, like, that I'm supposed to be doing something correctly, drives me bananas.
Hmm.
And so I saw you doing that threading the needle thing in Los Angeles, and I really liked the idea of it, because it was like, in a weird way, the way I thought of it is that when you are dancing, it's like all your body parts have decisions to make, all of them.
Hmm.
Your hand has to make a decision, and your left foot has to make a decision, and your eyebrow has to make a decision. And it's like, but all of a sudden, what you did is you removed it down, that my index finger and my thumb could make all the decisions, because I
Hmm.
just had to follow them everywhere. And then I combined this is a little embarrassing, but I combined what you taught us that day with another principle from hypnosis. And that is that a lot of times, if you've
Mm.
lost something, you actually know where it is, but your conscious mind is in the way. And so there's a
Hmm.
process that I've used in the past to find something that I've lost, but I decided to combine my process with yours. I couldn't for the life of me find my keys, which is incredibly embarrassing, because they have a home and I clearly didn't put them in their home. And so I thought, I'm going to go find them. And I really did this. It was after you and I spoke the other day. And I decided I'm just going to follow the needle. And I just did this
Wow.
low, high, followed the needle. And no kidding, the needle took me to the keys. Like it
What?
was just all over the house, and boom, there were the keys. And the whole
Okay.
time I was moving, having fun. Whereas the old Eric, which was only 49, would be going
Hmm.
like, where are the goddamn keys? Jesus, why do I keep doing this to myself? You know, beating myself up
Yeah.
more, which was not helping. And now the new
Yeah.
needle method seems to be a lot more fun.
I absolutely love that you're not only threading physical movement, but also mental thoughts. Like actually, threading back and seeing what was that train of thought, connected to.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And you'll see over time with things like mindful movement, of course, meditation and different practices, you're optimizing your overall performance in a lot of ways, but you're truly you're upgrading your brain, your body, you're leveling up, or should I say, instead of leveling up, you're stepping into the fullness of who you've always been, but maybe just haven't accessed yet. All of this potential is stored within. And I don't just mean that as like a cute, inspirational saying. It truly, you have so much inside. And things like mindful movement can end up, actually helping you in practical ways, like finding your keys.
You know,
Um,
it's what I really like about the way you teach movement is that, let's say somebody wants to go learn salsa or bachata. There's a right and wrong.
mhm,
And that's fine. And by the way, I have a huge respect. I love watching it. I find it difficult to learn, but there's a right
mhm,
and wrong. And then when we go to this other version of like dance like nobody's watching, then we get to this other situation that I was describing where every body part has to make a decision and people don't really know what to do.
right.
What I like about the way you do it is you say, there's no constraint except this constraint.
Mhm.
Like, for example, there's no constraint, but I want you to stick with triangles right now with your elbow or whatever it is. And I think there's something really fun about that. So I'd love to say to people like, you guys, you got to go check out Alyson on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere else, because I would love for you guys at home, especially if you have kids. No, never mind that. Especially if you have an inner kid. I don't really care if you're alone at the house
Mhm.
like me, or you got 8 people in the house. I really think you got to dance it out sometimes, and get some music on, and do some of the stuff that Alyson's talking about here, where you just really get into this in a weird, maybe there's a border between mindless movement and mindful movement right there in the middle somewhere.
Right. Well, I think you're touching on one of the core benefits and parts of the experience, which is we see freedom, but we don't always know how to get there.
Yeah.
And opening yourself up to being free can be intimidating. What do you do with all this space? Now we have so many options, I don't know what to choose. So mindful movement, yes, gives you some structure to actually slowly and at your pace open yourself up to greater freedom in every area of your life. And that freedom is going to give you the confidence to make the decisions you need to make for yourself, for your family, for your job. And so guiding yourself to freedom is it can feel like a very tall mountain, and so we're here to support by giving you small doses of what that freedom can be, and then letting you synthesize it on your whim, on your time. There's no pressure, there's no force. This really is just, as much as you want to open up, freedom will be there waiting for you, saying, hey, it's good to see you, I'm glad you're here finally.
Yeah, very.
Freedom's been waiting for all of us.
Just in case anybody thinks this is a little flippant, here we are in the middle of a pandemic and we're sitting here talking about threading needles and dancing in your living room. I want to be clear that we can have fun about this and we can talk about it, and it might be a fun diversion. But there's 2 things I really want to make absolutely clear. Your body requires movement for optimal function.
Mhm.
I keep making this joke that, I saw this meme the other day that our grandparents were called to fight in the trenches, and we're being called to sit on the couch, and I think we can handle it. But I want to suggest to you that we can't be sitting on the couch, and we do need to find ways to be out moving our body. So this might seem like a flippant comment or a flippant topic, but I actually think it's really, really important that we're out there moving. And not only is it really important for your body, and incidentally, it's important for your body on a number of levels. Like if you don't use your muscles during this time, it's funny. One of my team the other day said, wow, WildFit is just going to explode when this is all over because people are just sitting at home getting fat. And they're going to need help afterward. And I'm like, well, don't do that.
Right.
Get moving and keep your muscle tone and all that kind of stuff. But the other side of it is that our nervous systems can be tricked. Your nervous system can be tricked to think you're in incredible danger. Your nervous system can be tricked to think that you're under, immediate pending doom. Your
Trust
nervous
me, I
system
get
can
it.
be
I'm an
tricked.
actress.
What's that?
Said, trust me, I get it. I'm an actress. I've
Right.
made a life out of pretending and tricking my nervous system in a lot of different states, for better and worse.
Yeah, and moving around and being playful and giggling
Mm-hmm.
tricks your nervous system to feel you're safe.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you need to feel like you're safe because that is the optimal condition for your immune system. So I
Mm-hmm.
really am glad that you're getting that message out to people. And I really love the way you facilitate it for people. And with that in
Mm-hmm.
mind, there's one more thing I really wanted to dig into with you, because I am fascinated by performance. I'm fascinated
Mm-hmm.
by stage presence. I'm fascinated by what it takes to create authentic delivery and attraction and all that kind of stuff. And every now and again, I see people on stage that have that presence, and it's not that common. And you definitely do. So what I want you to know is a lot of my, clients and fans and friends that are tuning in, that'll be watching these things. Like I can see Ambika and Rita and Christian and Suze and so on, and Yannick. Like a lot of these people have gifts for the world, and their gift for the world might be, here's a game to play with kids. I can teach a language. I can teach you to sing. I mean, here's how to. Suze could talk to you about money during these really difficult times. What I would love is, from your perspective, what would you advise somebody who's saying, you know what, I want to go out to the world and I want to help people, even if it's 5 people, I want to help them. How do I present? How do I speak? How do I create that kind of magnetism that you so obviously have and that has done so well for you in
Mm.
show business?
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think there are a few things to start with. I began performing at 3 years old. So some of this is conditioned, but it can be learned and refined. And then another thing is, I think it surprises people to know that I'm extremely introverted. I am terrified of performing often. Um, and I've learned ways through and around that, but it didn't come naturally, as you might suspect. And the adrenaline used to just wreck my body. I would have such a spike, and then the come down was just horrible every day on tour. And so I knew that actually, for my survival and sanity, I was going to need to learn how to balance and find an even space where I can go on stage and just feel available, and then get off stage, let go, and move on. And so some of that was letting go of the perfectionism, right? Embracing that humanity and being real and truthful and honest is actually often exactly what people are wanting the most, even if you stumble and mumble your way through something. But I'll give you just a bunch of different little things. um, Practice visualizing what you're going to do. That's been a huge help. I've heard it from many people before. I didn't use it until I was an adult. That has made such a difference to train your body emotionally to feel the success of the moment, the joy of the moment, the confidence of the moment before you actually do it. Precondition yourself by using what you just said, the power of the imagination, and that really can prompt your body to then step onto that stage and go, oh, I've been here before. Now there's a more abstract exercise that I've been doing lately, which is a form of walking meditation, I would say. And it's a trick I actually learned through Vishen and Neil Donald Walsh, through a Mind Valley quest on and it's called something like, I am that. And I think a lot of times what happens when we're wanting to make a difference, or we're wanting to say, how can I get through this performance where all eyes are on me, we're operating from a place of separateness. We're thinking that all of us are separate entities and identities, and me, I start and end somewhere, you begin and end somewhere, and that creates an illusion of disconnect. And so this exercise, I'll coach you through it, and then hopefully you'll kind of get where I'm going. You spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long you need, looking at every object in the room, every person in the room, on the street, in life, and you say, I am you. I am that. I am you. And you'll start to notice that in every single person you encounter, there is a piece of yourself being reflected back. If I see a young kid hopping and skipping along joyfully, there is a part of me, because I'm recognizing it, that has that same joy inside. Same with someone who's spreading violence. There's actually a part of me that does have the potential to be violent. We have so many different components to who we are, but it's been helpful with performance and with sharing, because I'm realizing it's not about me, Alyson, trying to teach you, Eric, how to do something. It's about constantly allowing ourselves to mirror each other and reflect back to other people the greatness that's in them. And so when I go out and perform, I'm actually seeing it as an act of service. I'm not seeing it as people staring at me to celebrate me. I'm saying, how can I stand as a mirror for you to see yourself more truthfully? If I want to understand and know my my specialness, my uniqueness, let me start by activating that for other people. And in the glimmer in their eye when they're going, wow, I can't believe she knows how to dance like that or sing like that, I'm not leaving there going, I hope they praise me. I'm leaving there going, I hope they know that that light's within them, or else they wouldn't have recognized it. And so
That's it.
repositioning
Allison,
things.
I need to underscore that.
Mm,
It's a really big deal. I've been speaking for many years on a bunch of different topics, and I, I don't know how to put it, but everybody, like, they feel like coming up and saying, wow, you're funny, or you was a good talker, all that kind of stuff. But what I really want to hear is what it did for them.
yeah.
I want to hear what it showed them, what it taught them, what it inspired them, how it changed them. I'm actually not there for me, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people they don't take that opinion when they're recording a video, or when they're doing something. I guess I can't say I'm not doing it for me, because I enjoy it. It's not
Hmm.
altruistic. I clearly am getting something from it, but
Hmm.
truly I'm doing this because I want people to thrive through this experience. So I really
Yeah.
like that perspective.
Yeah, and if you break it down, the chronological timeline of, hey, if in 5 years, if in 5 years I want to be, selling these mindful movement courses to millions of people, then just reverse engineering that and seeing, when you get the steps of what that would take to accomplish, I'm gonna have to get over some of these fears because
Yeah.
I want to get there. So and actually another trick I use is having such a grandiose vision or something that seems really outlandishly far away. It makes the thing that feels hard right now very surmountable, because you're like, oh, eventually I'm going to have to speak in front of 1,000 people. So this little practice round in front of these 5 people, these 10 people, nah, this is the easy stuff.
Yeah.
And so just seeing, just kind of finding your own mind hacks,
Yeah. I
really.
like that a lot.
And just to, and if you make excuses, if you find you're making the same excuse over and over again, trust and experiment with what your own mind hack is. What does it take for you to get over your excuses? It's going to be a little different for everyone, but if you're still leaning on your excuses, then you haven't figured out your life hack.
I think that really plays into what stops people from even starting. They want it to be perfect, the first video, or they want it to be exactly right, or they're afraid that they'll say the wrong
Mhm.
thing or what have you. And it's like, I think one of the key things for us to all get these days is one of the greatest values that people have is for authenticity. And so,
Yeah.
if you get it perfect, you're actually breaking the authentic connection to some degree.
Yep.
If you stumble every now and again, or you don't say, that's what lets them know you're human. And I think that
Right.
with that in mind, anybody out there who has wisdom to share, and I mean, that wisdom could be everything from what do you do with your dogs when you can't go walking around the city, or how do you entertain your children? How do you cook when you don't have so many, great materials around? How do you parent when you've got your kids locked up? Like
Hmm.
there's information that's needed out there, and anybody who's sitting on that, I really, my advice is this: is exactly what you said. Get over it. Let go of the perfection. Have fun with it, and go and check out people like you that are creating great content and get ideas for how to position cameras and all that kind
Yes,
of
and
stuff.
hey, by the way, like very imperfect audio setup, very imperfect mindful movement courses and live streams right now. I just said, I know I need to get this out there and I can't, there's an opportunity to serve right now and I cannot afford to, avoid pressing record and going live just because I need it to be perfect. Now's
Yeah,
not the time for it. It's just not the time. It's
yeah.
not the time.
Alyson, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us and sharing these ideas. I want to make sure everybody knows how to connect with you. How can they do that?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on all social media at Alyson Stoner, and I have my YouTube channel. It's titled "The Real Alyson Stoner," but you'll find it if you type in my name. And then my podcast, Simplexity, and we'll have you on soon, helping everyone simplify the complexity of nutrition and health. And yeah, I've loved providing that source of information for people because now really is a time, like we said, to pause, to pivot, to self educate, to inquire, and go within. And as one of our former guests, Sister Jenna, was just on recently, she said this global pause is an opportunity to go inward and upward. So we might be feeling weighed down with everything, but there are a lot of tools out there that can help us turn this inside out and make something beautiful from the pieces that we have.
That's wonderful, Elson. Thanks again so much for being with us. And let's stay in touch. And yes, I think I'm already booked in for the podcast, so we'll make that
Great.
happen. And
Cool.
then we'll talk more about food.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks so very much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Thanks. You too.